Hi, everybody. It's Sarah Vanderpass with the Coverdale team at Keller Williams. Joined today is also Lincoln Coverdale. If you joined us last week, we went over making an offer. We hope that you have been finding this series helpful as you embark on the exciting journey of finding your dream home. Today, we'll be covering home inspections with special guest Scott Frey from PRC Home Inspections. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, thank you.
As we go through today's topics, feel free to ask questions in the chat and we will address them at the end. We will also post contact information in the chat as well. The topics we're going to be going over today are general radon and mold inspections, other inspections you may come across, and release of contingency. The primary purpose of the inspection is to better understand the condition of your new home. All homes require maintenance, and your home inspection will tell you what maintenance has been completed and what items should be on your list after moving in. This is valuable information which could increase the lifespan and perhaps the future selling price of your new home. It is possible that your inspection may reveal items that are either a safety concern or could affect the value and condition of the home. If that happens, you can work with your agent to negotiate repairs or concessions to address those items. So Scott, do I need an inspection?
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on a couple of the big points there, but a couple of the big factors why you need an inspection are health, safety, and money, really. Health-wise, radon testing, if there's radon in the house, if there's mold in the house, those would be health concerns. Safety-wise, anything from loose handrails to a crack in the heat exchanger or vents or something like that. And then quite honestly, money. I mean, this is going to be one of your biggest investments, most likely. And you'd like to know if there's going to be any big costs in the future. Do you need a new roof in a year? Are your windows shot? Does your furnace have 6 months left or 6 years left? So we are a little biased, but we absolutely recommend getting a home inspection.
So are inspectors licensed or certified?
That's kind of a gray area right now in Ohio. So last year they did pass a rule that inspectors are going to be licensed. They're kind of in the midst of doing that. They keep pushing back the date for licensure. Right now, I believe it's July of this year. So after July of this year, everybody that's doing home inspections should be licensed. Up until this point, there was no licensure in the state of Ohio for home inspections, which is kind of crazy. So a lot of people have been certified through one of the two international groups, Internashi or ASHI. There are some other classes online you can get a certification for. All of our inspectors have done that and are also now Ohio licensed as well. You have to be licensed for radon testing in Ohio. Not only to set the machine, even just to touch the machines, to pick them up, you're supposed to be licensed. Wood destroying insect inspections are also a licensure in Ohio that we all have. So the answer is yes, everybody's going to have to be licensed in Ohio shortly here.
Great. So how much does a typical inspection cost?
We base our inspections on square footage. So our inspections start on a home at $350. We back down a little bit for condos or smaller homes, but basically $350 is your average home. And then we go up slightly with square footage in increments. So that's the home inspection itself is $350. With a home inspection, if you wanted to do radon test, that's $125. A wood destroying insect inspection is another $125. And then we do what we call indoor air quality testing or mold testing. We sample the air on the inside of the home, and as a baseline, we take a sample on the outside of the home, and that's $150.
Okay, so should I attend the inspection?
Oh, absolutely. We encourage all of our clients to attend the inspection if any way possible. It's just much easier to go through and explain things either while we're doing it or at the end, rather than typing it on in a report and having them read it on a report. A lot of things, with our construction background, we're able to go through a house and say, here's what's wrong, and it's not that big of a deal, here's how you fix it. it's hard to say that over a report. All we can do really on the report is, hey, here's what's wrong. So if we have them there with us, we're able to get a much better understanding to them on, the issues of the home.
All right. So can I follow you around while you're doing the inspection?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We enjoy having everybody there, and it goes hand in hand with getting the best experience for the client. They will fully understand what's going on with the house, both good and bad. And that's actually the best way to do it.
What other services are available in the inspection?
So I touched on them briefly earlier, but we do radon testing, which we recommend just about for everybody. And then we also do the wood destroying insect inspection, which is a requirement for a VA loan. And then we also offer the mold inspection, or the indoor air quality. If we do see mold, we actually have the ability to take a sample of it, if feasible, and send it to the lab so they can tell exactly what it is as well. We've done vermiculite. It's an older insulation you find in attics. Sometimes contains asbestos, so we've sent samples of that off to the lab. So a lot of the environmental testing we can do as well.
And how long is the typical inspection?
Depending on the square footage, but I would say the average inspection runs between 2 and 2.5 hours. It's a pretty thorough inspection. We usually start on the exterior of the home, go through the garage, get up on the roof. We can typically get on, I don't know, probably 90% of the roofs of the homes we inspect. We're actually able to walk them, which we find to be the best way to find any defects. And then once we get inside, we work top down from the attic down, get into everything we can get into, run everything we can run, and typically 2.5 hours. The long answer to your question.
No problem. So as you're going along, will you address all of my concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, even in our online ordering process, we ask that question to the clients right on the order form. Are there any major concerns of yours? So that starts there. And then once we get through the house, we can address just about anything. Like I said, with all of us have a pretty extensive construction background. So we're not just there to point out, loose outlets or missing outlet covers. We have a pretty thorough understanding of the house. And a lot of people even ask us, hey, do you think we can expand this kitchen? Do you think we could put a bathroom here? And I think we're able to answer those questions, which kind of sets us apart a little bit.
So what can I reasonably expect for you to find during the inspection?
That's a great question. There's a lot of common issues, and a lot of them depending on the age of the home. No home is perfect. Even in new construction, we find a handful of items. So a lot of lights that don't work, and typically they're just bulbs that are out. There's always a few outlets that are missing covers or that need to be GFIs. Some damage, wear and tear on the exterior, whether it be holes in the vinyl or dinged up trim around the garage door. So a lot of common items in a lot of houses, and some are more, suitable to different age groups, but definitely no such thing as a perfect house.
So when will I get the report?
We tell everybody 24 hours, you'll get the report. Typically you get it much sooner than that. We come back to the office and write the reports usually that evening. So if you have a morning inspection or afternoon inspection, you'll have the report by the end of the evening, but no later than 24 hours. We realize everybody's on a time frame and there's more to be done after we're done.
So can you explain what radon is?
Sure. So radon's a gas, comes out of the ground from the rock uranium, rises through the ground and into your home. So radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer, next to smoking. So it's a prolonged chronic exposure. So two things have to happen. You have to have radon, you have to have that certain rock under your house, and it has to have a way into your house. The way into your house is not that difficult because there's always going to be some sort of cracks or pipe chases or things like that. So we test for that radon at the lowest livable level. And the reason for that is radon gas doesn't really get too far above the lowest level. It does what it's called played out. It's kind of like sticky and it sticks to everything in the basement. So that's why we test at the lowest levels.
And then how do you test for it?
Another great question. So there are a couple different methods, but the most common method for home inspections is a what we call continuous radon monitor, and that's a monitor that we set for 48 hours, and that takes a sample of the air at each hour for 48 hours and comes up with the average. And then once we pick it up, we're able to read it right from the machine, and we'll send out the report. Couple things with radon, and we send out an email. Hopefully the listing agents get them. You're supposed to have your windows and doors closed for 12 hours prior to the test, and your windows and doors closed during the whole test. Obviously you can come and go. You don't have to be stuck in your house, but you can run your air conditioning, heating systems like you normally would. In doing so, if you were to open up windows or think you're cheating the system, it actually could raise the radon levels as well. So it's a pretty popular add-on for us. We do quite a few. We have 8 to 10 machines, and they're consistently out.
So what types of molds are there? And then are they all dangerous?
Another great question. So yeah, there's quite a few molds, probably more than we're able to list. The biggest one everybody fears is black mold. That's got the most press, so that it can be dangerous. There's types of mold in everybody's home. No matter where you live, what climate you're at, there's always going to be some sort of mold spores in and throughout your house, and not all of them are dangerous. Depending on your health, if you have respiratory issues, you might be a little more sensitive to different kinds of molds in your home. And this is why we test for mold, and the indoor air quality test is a great start for that. When we get that test, it's five minutes of drawing air through this canister that we send off to the lab. So they got 5 minutes of your home's air, and it'll tell you everything on that report, what's in that air, with a whole bunch of long names that I can't pronounce or know, but there's a good description of what's going on in your house, and it's basically the first step of determining if there's a mold problem. So if there's a mold problem, you're going to have these spores in the air. If it comes back high, then we can investigate further to find out what the cause is. But not all molds are dangerous. Some definitely are, and I recommend having that indoor air quality test done to find out what's going on.
Is there anything else that might happen if the inspector finds mold?
So the most common molds we find are in the attic, on the roof sheeting. And a lot of times that is caused by bathroom fans that are vented into the attic space. So you're adding a whole bunch of moisture into the attic. Sometimes it's just poor attic ventilation, or sometimes it's a combination of both. The second most common molds we find are usually down in the basement, where you have some wet basement conditions, some sort of water intrusion. So all of these molds can be remediated fairly easy. Even the ones in the attic, they spray some stuff up there. They'll give you a year warranty on it. So none of it should be deal breakers. I mean, all of it can be remediated.
Great. Okay, Lincoln.
So Scott, thank you so much for all those great answers. In the time we've been in real estate, we've also run into a number of specialty situations that may require an inspector, and goes beyond the scope of the general inspection. And most recently, Scott and I were at an inspection for a client for a house that had a septic system. So if your house has additional features, a septic system, or perhaps a foundation concern, are there specialists that can be brought in to address those specific concerns as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just kind of the tip of the spear. We'll go in, and hopefully we don't find anything, but realistically, we're going to find some issues. We don't necessarily, when we recommend further evaluation, it means that there's something we're not sure of, it's beyond our, scope of experience. So it doesn't happen often, but addressing, let's say, the foundations, if there's large cracks, if there's bowing, something that's definitely not right, we'll definitely recommend a structural engineer come look at it. Septic systems, anytime you have a separate system, excuse me, whether it be well or septic, it's always good to have somebody look at each one of those systems. There's no point in having us do a home inspection for everything but the septic, just to find out that the septic is bad and you have to spend $15,000 after you move in to replace it. So any of the systems involved should be inspected. And then, like you said, Lincoln, if we need further evaluation, that's what we'll recommend, and let the professionals take it from there.
Sure. And I think one of the other questions that we get a lot that you can probably shed some light on is, why do we do home inspections in cities that have point of sale? Doesn't the point of sale cover everything? I get that question all the time.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you know, some of the cities only do an exterior point of sale. Some do both. Their inspections are nowhere near as thorough as ours. They're doing a quick walkthrough of your property. They're pointing out the obvious visible things. For instance, they're not going on your roof. We're going on your roof. So they can't see your chimney top. They can't see anything up there, which we can. They're not taking your panel covers off of your electrical panels, which, we find quite a few things wrong in there. So they're not doing that. They're not going in your attics. So when we go, they're not seeing any potential water damage up there, any mold in your attic, any problems with the structure. So they're not, they're not running dishwashers, the list goes on, but yeah, it's definitely nowhere near as thorough as our inspection would be. Excellent.
So after the inspection, we work with our clients to negotiate the release of contingency for their inspection reports. And one of the features we love about the reports you guys send is the summary. And can you sort of just go over briefly, what's included in the summary, why those items are there, and why that's what we're drawing attention to have discussions with the seller and potentially discuss, either concessions or repairs for the release of contingency after your report's done?
Sure. So the summary on our report is the first thing you're going to come across. It's right at the top. The summary items are anything, when we go to do the inspection, I tell the clients, summary is anything that's health, safety, or might cost you a lot of money kind of issues that if we find any that should be addressed, immediately or soon. We try to prioritize the whole report and help them realize what are the summary items, what are the important items, because there could be a long list of items that, that really don't need to have immediate attention. So we help prioritize that in the summary. And that's usually anything, like I said earlier, anything that's health or safety related, a lot of electrical issues, anything that's leaking, pipes, water pipes that can cause further damage. If your roof needs to be replaced in a year, that's a big ticket item. That would be a summary item. So I'm glad you find that helpful, and that's why we put it up there.
Yeah, it's a great starting point for us to have a discussion with our clients about, what was found in your inspection report. There are also going to be items that are just condition reports, right. Pictures of the hot water tank for the purposes of, noting what it was and when it was installed, but that summary is really a great point for the agent and the client to start the discussion on items that are either of a safety concern or will change the condition or cost of owning that home. And that's the point of the inspection. We're supposed to use that to make sure that the client isn't getting any surprise expenses or having any surprise safety concerns after they move in. So, a great place to have a discussion with your agent if you're a buyer or a seller. We have had situations, and Scott, I know you've run into a couple of these. Sellers can have their home pre-inspected and provide that report. So as a buyer, if I get a report from a seller that's was pre-inspected before the home was put under contract, should I be worried that was done by someone who was on the seller's side or has their best interest in mind?
That's another good question. You're full of them today. You know what? I just as a blanket statement, I would recommend always having somebody, having another inspection done, somebody that you're hiring that has your best interest in mind. You never know who did the inspection, when it was done, although it should have a date, but conditions can change pretty quickly. I mean, when they did the inspection, it might not have been raining and the basement looked great. And when I'm doing my inspection, I come back and we've had 2 weeks of rain and I see water intrusion. So that's a pretty big issue there. So long answer is, yeah, I definitely recommend having your own inspector, somebody who's looking out for your best interest.
Excellent. All right. Well, I've been watching Facebook. We're good there. Any questions from the Zoom folks? All right. Well, I think we're good. Scott, thank you so much for your time and your expertise and being a great partner for us. And Sarah's going to chat with us about next week real quick.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. So next week is our final session. We'll be discussing closing and possession with Diane Scarts from Signature Title. If you'd like a copy of our home buyer's guide, leave your email in the chat or reach out to us.